So I was at Toronto International Film Festival and I feel like a fucking idiot. It was my intention to release these Quickie reviews chronologically as I'm working on other projects, and I thought I had plenty of time before the wide release dates of some of these films, but then all of a sudden I find out that First Man and 22 July are already released, so despite me having seen these films well before their release date, I am not talking about them until now, which is a very stupid thing to have happened, and it is entirely my fault. I saw a lot of movies at this festival and Vancouver Film Fest, and I've got about 15 more to cover in these festival reviews. So I am now looking at the wide release dates to make sure that this doesn't happen again because I feel really fucking stupid. Anyway, First Man was pretty great. This is definitely a change of pace for director Damien Chazelle. With his other films being Whiplash and La La Land, it's kind of bizarre to see him take on this project. Fortunately enough, this film proves his versatility as a director. It's very well shot, it's incredibly well acted. I'm not someone who's too familiar with the story of Neil Armstrong, but I've heard that it's pretty accurate. I appreciate how I didn't have to be already obsessed with the subject matter to be captivated by this film. It's a very interesting and personal depiction of this man's life, and when watching this film play out, it's really easy to care for the characters. One thing that I really loved about the film is that all of the special effects felt very genuine. Not only did it not feel fake, but it wasn't overly flashy either. Rather than having this be some sort of a spectacle, they took a much more grounded and realistic approach, and I feel like it helps the movie out a lot. It all comes down to what the priorities of this film are, and this film is more about its characters than anything else. Apparently, a bunch of triggered individuals rated this film 1 out of 10 before it was even released. Like, it's at a 7.5 now, but it was way further down when I saw it at TIFF. All because they found out that the film doesn't focus on the flag being planted. Seriously? I mean, if you had actually watched the movie and did that, that would be one thing, but you don't even care about the context or how the film was presented? Alright. If you had actually watched the film, then you'd understand that this film is still incredibly patriotic. It just seems like a very silly thing to get upset over. Anyway, I thought this movie was great. Not quite as great as Whiplash or La La Land, but still great. Oddly enough, the only issue I really had was with the music. The score was by no means bad, but I feel as though the film deserved so much more. Maybe this is just a personal preference thing, but I feel as though there was a lot of wasted potential in the soundtrack. Anyway, check this one out if you haven't already, and I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10. 22 July was decent, I guess, kind of, maybe. For those of you who don't know, this is a Paul Greengrass film based on the 2011 terror attack in Norway. Based on that information alone, I guess I got what I expected. It's not poorly shot, it's not poorly acted, it's not poorly directed, but you can't really call anything about it exceptional. It's kind of just tragedy porn, which is really just unfortunate. I don't know what the intentions were with this film, but it seemed a bit borderline exploitative, and it's likely that I wouldn't feel that way if it wasn't so cheesy. The music was overbearing and manipulative. Plenty of the dialogue was also really cheesy and forced. The only aspects of the film that had me invested at all were aspects that I can't even really give the film credit for. The event itself that took place was absolutely horrific. That alone had me invested, but I can't say the same thing for anything related to the film's presentation. It was just Paul Greengrass tragedy film number 478, and it was kind of forgettable overall. Most of the film focuses on the events after the actual terror attack, and there is a really interesting story to be told there, but the movie decided not to tell it. Part of what makes the fallout from this tragedy a moral dilemma is the fact that Norway has a 21-year maximum prison sentence, but they don't even mention that in the movie. Instead, they just say things like he's gonna go away for the rest of his life. And yeah, technically under Norwegian law, they can extend it every 5 years if he is deemed to still be a danger to society, but they didn't mention any of that. They just talk about it as though he's receiving a life sentence, as though this issue isn't one of the more interesting aspects to this story. It's almost like they did that so it would be more of a happy ending or some shit. It feels like a gigantic wasted opportunity to present something actually thought-provoking, and from the rest of this film's presentation, it's clear that thought-provoking is not something that this film wanted to be, which is unfortunate, and all we're left with is some cheesy tragedy porn, I guess. At first I rated this film a 6, but it's really not aging too well in my memory, so I'm giving this one a 5 out of 10.